thought about, like, those annoying side effects you get from medications, those little things that bug you? What if those are actually a sign that the treatment is working?
It's funny, isn't it? We usually think of side effects as a bad thing, something to avoid. But this study we're diving into today really flips that idea on its head.
So, we're talking about the placebo effect, right? Like, the idea that our brains can influence how well a treatment works, even if it's not the treatment itself directly doing the heavy lifting.
Exactly. And this study takes it a step further, looking at how something as simple as a mild side effect can tap into that placebo response, especially when we're talking about pain relief.
Okay, so how'd they study this? Did they, like, give people all kinds of experimental drugs and see what happened?
Not quite. They used a really interesting setup with simulated pain and nasal sprays. So imagine carefully calibrated heat to create a believable pain experience, and some of these nasal sprays had a bit of capsaicin in them, the stuff that makes chili peppers hot.
Ah, so that's the side effect, a little burning sensation. But they weren't actually giving people real painkillers.
Some were, some weren't. That's the key here. They had a control group who just got a plain saline spray, no side effects, then a group who got the spray with the capsaicin, the active placebo, you could say, and finally a group who got an actual painkiller. This way, they could isolate the impact of experiencing that side effect, even if the treatment itself was exactly the same.
All right, so we've got folks getting a fake painkiller, some with a convincing side effect, some without. What happened? Did people actually say they felt less pain?
That's where things get super interesting. The folks who got that burning sensation from the capsaicin, even though it wasn't really doing anything to block the pain, they consistently reported feeling more relief compared to those who just got the plain spray.
So even if the treatment wasn't the reason they felt better, just the feeling of a side effect made them think it was working better.
Exactly. Just goes to show how powerful our expectations can be. You see, if our brain believes that a treatment is going to work, even based on something as simple as a little burning feeling, it can actually change how our bodies react. Our brains are constantly trying to find patterns and connections. So if we experience something after taking a treatment, even if it's just a burning sensation, our brains might link that sensation to the treatment working.
So it's like our brains are going, whoa, something's happening here. This treatment must be strong, even if it's just a sniffle or a weird taste in your mouth.
Precisely. And it's not just about how we feel either. The researchers actually saw this playing out inside the brain itself. They used fMRI scans to see what was happening in real time, going beyond just what people were telling them about their pain.
Right. They wanted to see the physical evidence inside the brain to back up what people were reporting about their pain levels. So what did they find? Were there any noticeable differences in how the brain was acting? So they were looking for some real physical proof inside the brain, right? Like something to match up with what people were saying about how much pain they felt.
Yeah, exactly. And they found it. They're really interested in the parts of the brain that deal with pain, and what they saw was really cool. When people felt that burning feeling, even though it wasn't directly because of pain relief, there was more activity in the, what's it called, the descending pain modulatory system.
Okay, hold on a sec. Descending pain modulatory system. Sounds kind of complicated.
It does sound kind of technical, but it's actually pretty simple. Think of it like your brain's very own control center for pain. It helps manage and filter pain signals before we're even aware of them.
So it's like our brain has a built-in way to turn down the pain.
That's a great way to put it. And the really interesting thing is that this study showed that just feeling a side effect, that burning feeling in this case, seemed to activate this system.
So even though the painkiller wasn't actually doing anything itself, the brain noticed a side effect and thought, gotta be working, time to lower the pain.
Exactly. And it gets even more interesting if you look closer at the specific areas within this system that were more active. They saw a bunch of activity in the connection between the rostral anterior cingulate cortex, we can just call it the RACC for short,
Right.
and the periaqueductal gray, or PEG.
Wow, those are some real mouthful names. What do those parts of the brain actually do?
So the RACC, it's like the brain's own little calculator for figuring out if things are good or bad, processes our expectations and all that. And the PEG, think of it like the volume knob for pain. It's super important for actually turning down how much pain we feel.
So the side effect basically kind of hijacked the brain's system for deciding how much pain to let through, huh?
You got it. And this really strengthens the idea that our expectations, which were triggered by the side effect here, can cause real, measurable changes in how our brains deal with pain. It's not just in our imagination. It's happened at the level of those neurons firing in our brains.
This is really making me rethink all those times I've complained about side effects from medications. What if those were actually part of what was making me feel better the whole time?
That's a pretty wild thought, right? Of course, it's not like we're saying all side effects are good or that we should go looking for them. Some side effects are definitely bad news, and we got to deal with those.
Yeah, for sure. We're definitely not saying to ignore serious side effects or anything like that.
No way.
Yeah.
But this study does bring up some really cool questions about how we view and talk about side effects, especially the ones that are small and don't last long.
So, are you suggesting that maybe, just maybe, doctors could change how they talk to their patients about side effects? Instead of saying, oh, by the way, this might give you a stuffy nose, they could try saying something like, if you get a stuffy nose, that just means it's working. It means your body's reacting to the medicine.
Now you're getting it. Presenting it in a positive light, as a sign that the treatment's doing its thing and the body's responding, could maybe boost that placebo effect, make people more open to the benefits of the treatment.
Okay, I see what you're saying, but we can't forget about the ethical side of things here. We definitely don't want doctors misleading their patients or keeping important information from them about potential risks just to get a stronger placebo effect. That could be a slippery slope.
You're absolutely right. Being open and honest is so important in any medical situation. This study isn't about doctors being sneaky or tricking their patients. It's about understanding how powerful our beliefs can be when it comes to our health and finding good ethical ways to work with those beliefs. It's about giving patients the power, not fooling them.
So it's more about changing the conversation, right? Like finding ways to focus on the good things about what might normally seem like a bad experience.
Exactly. Knowing more is always better, right? And if we can help patients see that their own beliefs and expectations play a big role in how well a treatment works, that could be really empowering. It gives them a sense of control over their own healing.
This is kind of like that saying, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Hmm.
Our minds are crazy powerful, aren't they?
For sure. And this study proves it. It makes us rethink how we see treatments and recognize the amazing complex connection between our brains, our bodies, and what we believe.
This has been a really eye-opening conversation. I feel like I see my own experiences with medications and side effects in a whole new light now. But I have to ask, what's next? What other questions come up because of this study? It's almost like our brains have this hidden power to heal, and it just takes a little nudge, a little belief to unlock it.
I like that. It's like giving your brain a little pep talk
Yeah.
here. And, this study focused on pain, but makes you wonder, could this work for other things too? What
Yeah.
about like anxiety or depression or even just a regular cold?
So you're saying someone might get over a cold faster if they're convinced this certain remedy works, even if it's just a placebo, all because they get a little tingle or a weird taste in their mouth.
Think about it. Our brains are always trying to connect the dots. They want to figure out why things happen. So even a random side effect could be enough to convince your brain that, yep, this treatment is doing its job.
This is seriously blowing my mind. Makes you wonder how much of what we think is a real treatment effect is actually just our brains tricking us, these little self-fulfilling prophecies going on in our heads.
It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it shows why we got to understand these placebo effects, work with them, not just brush them off as nothing, or even worse, try to use them to mislead people.
Absolutely. Because if we can figure out how to use this power the right way, ethically, imagine how much better healthcare could be. We could be talking about needing fewer medications, having fewer side effects, maybe even making the treatments we already use work even better.
Now you're thinking. This study really opens up a whole bunch of possibilities, but also new questions. It really highlights how much we still don't know about how our minds and bodies work together and how that affects our health.
This has been an amazing deep dive. I feel like I've learned so much about how powerful our brains are and how they can impact the way our bodies heal, even in ways we don't expect.
That's what's so great about science, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's always more to learn, more to discover. It's a journey that never ends.
Couldn't agree more. So, to everyone listening, we'll leave you with this thought. Next time you take any kind of medication, really pay attention to how you feel, not just the main effects, but any little side effects too. You might be surprised by what you notice. And remember, your brain is incredibly powerful. It might just be your secret weapon when it comes to feeling better.
Don't underestimate the power of your own beliefs, that's for sure. Your brain could be your biggest ally on the road to recovery.